Watch your fingers. Okay, we're heading out here. Today we're going to trim Chloe's feet because that's part of getting out with the horse every day is to do that. And I'm going to be using the Precision Hoof Pick, otherwise known as the PHP. And I've got my notebook and we're going to measure some of the different parts of her foot to see if we're on track with the foot trimming. Okay, so according to the PHP, what we want to do is use this tool to measure her just to gauge the flare on the inside and the outside of her foot. So get her foot here. And we'll put it up on the stand. And we just lay that tool down, and it is not perfectly flat. So there's quite a bit. Here's the inside, and there's a gap there. So, and on the outside, or the lateral, yep. So I'm just going to fix that a little bit now since our foot is already up here. Let's check that the foot is in the picture. A little bit of a sunny spot. And we'll just take off that outside flare a little bit. You're doing a good job. All right. I like to use this Hoofjack Stand because it saves my back. Okay. I find it easier to pull this rasp towards me because I'm not doing this all the time, all day long, so it's just important, and you can see a couple times I rasp a little bit to stay out of this area of their foot. Remember, I'm just on the 30-day challenge here showing you stuff that I do on a day-to-day basis, but you should definitely get, this is not a how-to video. It's not in-depth enough, and I would get an expert's opinion on your hoof trimming at home. I've been trimming her feet. She wants to just be lazy a little bit for probably 12 years, so you think they look a lot nicer at this stage. But I found this little hoof pick. And I'm just notice these flares a little bit more. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I guess I can measure it here. It's got inches on both sides. And this looks like the middle. And I'm going, looks like 2.5. And that's, I haven't trimmed anything else off. So, had a little bit of a flare, so I'll make a note that I trimmed the flares for 6-1 today. Trimmed, or I didn't really trim them, more or less rasped them off. Trimmed or rasped flares. And that was her left front. Her left. Alright. Now, before I change the stand, I'm going to do her other foot, and then we'll move on. Okay, we've taken off the flare a little bit, and now I'm going to trim her left front. Well, possibly trim it, but the first thing I'm going to do is using the PHP, the Precision Hoof Pick, get some measurements. Alright, so we're going to measure the wall height from her sole, and it should just be 1/16 of an inch. And 1 to 2. So in some spots it needs to be lowered. 1, 2. So definitely one. That is definitely 1 of the 16ths, and definitely higher over here. 1, 2. Yeah, so we definitely don't need to take off any of this height except for right through that section. And right through this section. And that's still dirty. And I'm just going to clean this up just a tad. You can see it. Alright. So that makes sense. That's kind of handy to have a quick way to measure all the way around her foot instead of just eyeballing it, because looking at the same foot all the time can create some definite imbalances. Now this, yeah, it's a little bit harder to read. And another way to do it is just to lay this flat across the top, but her frog is really sticking out, so it's harder to do. Alright. Alright, now we're going to measure some of her groove depths in 2 different spots close to the apex of her foot, of the frog of her foot, so where the thing matches. And we're going to use this rasp as the floor. So this bottom part of the rasp would be the ground, not the top part unless she was on high heels. Alright, and so we're just going to stick that in there. And that looks like 1, 2, 3, 4/16, which is 1/4 of an inch. And the groove depth should be 7/16. So what did I measure here? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So mine is 4/16, and then this part back here is, whoa, a lot different. I wish there was basically a measurement on so there's where it has the inch mark, but I'm not using 1/16 of an inch very often, so I'm sitting here having to count those up, And when it's close to her foot, and you know, it's basically in her foot, I can't count how many 16ths I'm counting. So maybe the best thing to do is just subtract where there's 16 16ths in the inch for each increment. And maybe I just have to count backward to figure this out, because this is, I had bought this maybe over a year ago when I had the brownies in, and it was very difficult to use. The horse is moving around, but of course I'm not a professional doing this every day with multiple horses, but I figured to come out and just give it another go. Alright, we're going to move on to the frog and the heel bulbs. So we're just going to measure her entire frog. And there again, I don't know where that exactly starts because it's part of her foot. But it looks to be, let's just say I'm going to go to the edge of her hoof. That's 3 inches. That is 3 inches. So, measuring frog length is 3 inches. Now, the heel of the bulb, the frog to the apex, and then they want us to measure the apex to the toe, and this is 1 1/2. 1.5. So that is a 2/3 to 1/3 ratio. Wow, that's pretty good. So they're saying that this is 2/3 and this is 1/3, and that's exactly what it is on her. So we don't need to take off, I guess, any more toe. But that edge just looks, it just looks flared out to me. I'm going to take it off. I'm sorry. That does not look right to me. Well, we took all the flares off on the outside, and I'm just going to roll it now where I trimmed it. And I wish this part was tighter, like this part. And that's kind of what I'm cleaning up now without taking off any more height or any more toe, because I've got the right proportions apparently. Alright, and then we're going to measure hoof length and width. The width at the quarters is 4, we're going to call it a good 4.5. No, 4 1/4. 4 1/4. This would be really helpful if you had someone writing this stuff down for you. And this is going to be 2 1/4 across her bulbs. 2 1/4. I'm going to put her foot down. She's tired of holding it up.